If there's one thing I get on a soapbox about, it's this idea of a starving artist. I'm going to say it flat out. It's a myth. It is simply not true. In fact, it's more than a myth. It's a harmful belief that diminishes your value in so many ways. That's why it's so important we break you free from a starving artist mindset. And that's what my latest podcast episode is all about. Before we dive into that, hit the subscribe and get notified button so you don't miss any of these episodes. All right, here's the podcast. Hey friends, welcome to Theater Life Uncensored, where we peel back the curtain and reveal to you what's really working in today's industry for theater artists just like you. That means you get to hear and learn how to surpass your career goals sooner and enjoy an easier, more peaceful life along the way. I'm your host, Jim Cooney, a New York City-based director-choreographer, and I'm also the founder of Amplified Artists, a membership community for theater professionals, from performers to producers and everyone in between, helping you create a career and life you love. Getting rid of the starving artist mentality is one of my favorite things to talk about because it really is life-changing when you can let go of it. Before we dive into that, though, one of the topics I get asked most about is branding. How do I know my brand? How do I create my brand? How do I make my brand stand out? So to help you all with this, I put together a free guide and worksheet walking you through a 3-part formula that clarifies your brand. You can grab it for free at jimcooney.me/branding. Again, that's jimcooney.me/branding, and I'll link to that in the show notes. And by the way, if you want to connect outside of this episode, you can follow me on Instagram at JimCooneyNYC. Pop over there and say hello. Okay, so I said at the top of this episode how falling prey to the starving artist mentality diminishes your value. What do I mean by that? Well, it creates scarcity mentality, which keeps your life scarce. And money touches everything in this world, everything, even air, even water, anything you can name. Money touches it in some way. So if you have a starving artist mentality and you are feeling scarce about money, that bleeds into all areas of your life. You feel scarce about everything. Now, maybe you don't see it on the surface, but deep down inside you, it's holding you back. You're sabotaging yourself, probably without even realizing it, by thinking you're financially starving or lacking enough money. And here's the thing, friends, the numbers show otherwise. And numbers are factual. 2 plus 2 always equals 4, no matter how you feel about it, or what lens you look through, or how you try to spin it. 2 plus 2 equals 4. The numbers and laws of math are factual. So that is great news because all we have to do to dispel the starving artist myth is look at the actual numbers. Before we get to the numbers, though, let's also talk about the damage this thinking does to our industry. When the world at large thinks of us as starving, that translates to we don't get paid a lot, which translates to what we do is not valuable. Now, that is just bullshit. Art is what we rely on to survive. Just look at the pandemic. When everything shut down, what did people resort to? Television, movies, music, books, all products of the arts. When there is a tragedy in the world, who puts on massive concerts and events to raise money and help out? Artists. When we go to other countries, what do? Museums, architecture, food, shows. Again, all products of the arts. Without art, there is simply no culture. There is no life. Culture is what defines us. So we are absolutely crucial to our species as human beings. Let's be leaders in this and stop propagating this idea of the starving artist. So in order to do that, we need to know the facts. And so here we go with some numbers. At the time of this recording, we're in the middle of 2022. So looking back to the last full year, 2021, the average U.S. salary was $51,480, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor, $51,480. However, even though that's the average amount of money that people earn, there are way fewer people in the country making millions and billions than there are people who are making lower wages. So that really skews the numbers. So listen to this. 73% of the country makes the average U.S. salary or lower. 73%. So instead of looking at the average dollar amount, let's look at the average person, meaning what does 50% of the population make? So, 50% of US citizens are making $30,000 or lower, and 50% of the population are making $30,000 or higher. Now, while the numbers are factual, what is not factual is how we classify what starving is. And what amount of money is that? Is it that $30,000 amount? Is it lower than that? Or do we look at how many people, like what's the lowest 25% of the population making? So it's definitely subjective and it's dependent on where you live because of the cost of living. But I think what we can all agree on is that if you're somewhere between that $30,000 amount that 50% of the country is earning and that 51,480 amount that is the average salary, you can't say that you're starving because that would mean that everyone else in those categories are also starving. Do we say half the country is starving? No. So, do you see why I'm saying that it's simply not true? But to convince you further, let's look at the numbers within our industry to see how they compare. $30,000 a year works out to be $577 a week. And remember, that's what 50% of people in the US make. Well, 50% and lower, right? So not all of them are even making 577 a week. But we'll stick with that average number. And then the higher number, which was that average salary amount of $51,480, that works out to be $990 a week. But remember, only 27% of the population is making that much or more. But we'll still stick with that number. So since most theater jobs pay you weekly, we're going to be looking at jobs paying you between those two numbers, which again were 577 to 990 a week. Here are all the kinds of jobs you can do that pay in that range or even higher than those amounts. Broadway, off-Broadway, regional theaters, Rockettes, dance companies, opera companies, cruise ships, film, TV episodes, TV commercials, corporate industrials, and live events. And I'm sure there's other things I'm not even thinking about, like circus and other types of performances that you may do. Now, all of those have contracts available for artists at those average rates. In each individual category, like take live events for example, there are events that pay less than those average amounts, but there are also ones that pay more. Heck, sometimes even a day rate for an event is higher than that, let alone for the whole week. So there is fluctuation in each category. But the point is that there are absolutely plenty of jobs in every area of our industry that pay the average US salary or higher. Now, this doesn't even include the money saved when you're working out of town, where all of your transportation costs are usually covered, and that there's per diem for your food, or there's craft services. And if you wanted to, you could even sublet your home so that you're eliminating your rent or mortgage payment. So you're getting to keep more of your money than most non-artists get to keep. And that means even if you're making less than those average rates, you could be in effect making that much or more. So for example, let's say you're only making $500 a week. But if you have a $200 per diem, you're really making $700 a week. And again, that is between those average salaries. So that means that there are even more jobs that we could include into the mix here that would equal those average salaries. So here's the thing. We can see when we look at just the numbers alone, we can see that the weekly salaries are on par with the average US salary and what the average US person makes. So why do we feel like a starving artist? Why do we buy into that? Well, it's because it's not the amount of money we get paid, it's the inconsistency. We don't all work every week of the year and always at those average rates or higher per week. There's a lot of fluctuation. But guess what? It is the same for every business. Now, an employee of a business may not feel that because they have a set salary, but the business owner sure does, right? Some months the business makes a lot of sales, and after they pay all of the employees, the business owner makes a profit. But some months the company doesn't make a lot of sales, and after the business owner pays all the employees, they may have nothing left, or they may even lose some money. But we don't see business owners freaking out or proclaiming to the world that they're starving every time that happens. They know that business day to day or month to month is inconsistent. Using a more zoomed out measure, they look at the entire year. So if they're breaking even year after year, or they're even making more every year, they don't despair on the days or the weeks or the months where there's not a lot of money coming in. It's only if they're starting to consistently lose money each year that they need to be concerned. When you run a business, inconsistency is absolutely normal. It is just how it works. Well, you are a business. Therefore, it is absolutely normal for you to have inconsistent income. So you want to do the same thing as a business owner. You want to keep a zoomed out view and focus more on your year to year results than day to day, week to week, or even month to month. When you look at your average annual income, what does that look like? And how does it compare to those numbers we talked about earlier of $30,000 that half of the country makes, or the $51,480 that's the average salary? Now, I'm not saying you should settle for those amounts of money. We should absolutely shoot for the moon. I'm just saying compare yourself to those average amounts. If we don't say any of those people are starving, then you are not either. The numbers don't lie. So the idea of a starving artist, it is just a falsehood. You can completely erase the starving artist mentality from your mindset and instead embrace inconsistency as the norm. It's how our business and every other business works. And when you understand that and understand the system, not only does the idea of being a starving artist have no legs to stand on, but you can then leverage the system. You can manage your money to get maximum results. And by the way, if you're a member of Amplified Artists, we have an entire course called Freeing Your Finances that shows you how you can manage your money for these maximum results. Because you want to get yourself off the hamster wheel of having to continually work to make money and instead start letting your existing money make you more money. It's basically free money. And here's the thing, the sooner you start earning that free money, the more free money you make. So it's really important you get rid of that starving artist mentality and fear around money because it's just going to always hold you back. And I hope now, after looking at the numbers, you are ready to ditch that starving artist mindset completely. As always, if you've got any questions or want to keep this conversation going, give me a shout on Instagram at Jim Cooney NYC. And before we wrap up here, don't forget you can get my 3-part branding formula guide and worksheet on my website at jimcooney.me/branding, which I've linked to in the show notes. Now, here's a little preview of next week's episode. See you then.
There's only time to be ourselves, right? Like I only have time personally to be myself. And that comes with everything. It's not just, what people say like, oh, just be yourself and like this public image. Like it doesn't really only have to do with that. It's also how I communicate with my loved ones. I only have time to be fully what I know that I can give to them, and that's a really great place to start with for people, or that was a great place for me to start.
So I hope you now feel broken free from your starving artist mentality. If you've got any questions or want to keep the conversation going, just drop me a note in the comments below. I personally respond to each one. If you like this video, hit the like button to help more people find out about it, and also be sure to subscribe and get notified so you don't miss any episodes. Remember, there is no one on the planet who is just like you. Stay true to the gifts that you have and who you are. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.